When I first heard it, it encouraged me to think of myself as whole and unhyphenated. Afropean. Here was a space where blackness was taking part in shaping European identity at large. It suggested the possibility of living in and with more than one idea, Africa and Europe, or by extension, the global South and the West, without being mixed this, half that, or black other. The being black in Europe didn't necessarily mean being an immigrant. Labels are invariably problematic, often provocative, but at their best, they can sing something into visibility. From my timid vantage point, growing up in a working class area of Sheffield, ravaged by the external forces of free market economics and the internal protective force of local insularity that took shape in postcode wars, I began to notice a world that had been invisible to me before, or at the very least implausible. In my small corner of Britain, I'd felt I was being forced to react against one culture or over-identify with the other. Originally coined in the early 90s by David Byrne and Belgian-Congolese artist Marie Dawn, frontwoman of music group Zap Mama, I first encountered this notion of Afropean in the realms of music and fashion. Among many others, Lenubians, soul sisters from Chad by way of France, exuded it, as did Nena Cherry, whose roots are Swedish and Sierra Leonean, Joy Denalaine from South Africa via Germany, and Claude Grunitzky's Trace publication. Transcultural styles and ideas was the magazine's tagline, and reflected Grunitzky's own Afropean identity. He had a Polish grandfather on his mother's side, was born in Togo, raised in Paris, and launched his magazine in London. This was a very attractive scene I was tapping into. Beautiful, talented, successful black Europeans effortlessly articulating their cultural influences in coherent and creative ways. It was particularly attractive to me because the sense was that this iteration of blackness existing in Europe appeared as if it wasn't going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Felt closer to home than the sometimes overbearing African-American art forms, and more encompassing and nuanced than the Black Britain Club, whose sense of itself was starting to feel outdated, often packaged exclusively as an embodiment of the Windrush generation. In the last national census, for the first time, more black Brits identified themselves as black African than Afro-Caribbean. Initially, then, I saw Afropean as something of a utopian alternative to the doom and gloom that surrounded the black image in Europe in recent years, and an optimistic route forward. I wanted to work on a project that connected and presented Afro-Europeans as lead actors in our own story, and with all this glorious Afropean imagery in mind, I imagined this would result in some kind of coffee table photo book with snippets of feel-good text to accompany a series of trendy photographic portraits. There would be images of the success stories of Black Europe, young men and women whose street style effortlessly and elegantly articulated an empowered Black European mood. It was a visit to the jungle in Calais in 2016 that encouraged me to reconsider this approach. Over some fragrant, milky Arabic tea, Hisham, a young man from Sudan who ran one of many small, remarkably organised cafes and had been living in the jungle for 10 months, told me how he'd lost everything, had no surviving family members, had painful memories of the past and tremulous visions of the future, and was stuck in this limbo land between Africa and Europe. Home, a little of which he'd miraculously fashioned in his cushion-covered cafe, and anonymity. As I left his creaking plywood premises, he suggested that I write about his story and about life in the jungle, a request I was nervous about. This man was intelligent, articulate and literate. Wouldn't it be better that he write about the jungle himself? Maybe I could help attract attention to his writing or publish his story on the website that I run. But what did I personally know about seeing friends massacred, fleeing war, hiding for my life in shipping containers or on ill-equipped boats in order to arrive penniless at a bunch of cold, windswept shacks in the hinterlands of northern France, apart from what he was telling me? After exchanging contact details, I left the jungle on my bicycle and slowly realised that I was being watched and followed through the blustery streets of Calais by the French military police, the gendarmerie. Attempting to enter the white gates of the port to catch my ferry back to the UK, I was stopped before I could even get to passport control, searched, asked for my ID, where I was going, where I'd come from, how long I'd been away, and why. Finally, after more questioning and looks of suspicion, I was allowed to enter an official compound I'd seen other brown-skinned men of my age look longingly at from a distance. I was in, they were out.